square meter of land is. A square meter of land will be 1 meter by 1 meter, right? And a hectare is 10,000 square meters of land. Now, after the hectare, we have a smaller subset of land, which is called an acre. What I also find is a lot of people use the term hectare and acre. They use it as substitutes for each other as if they are the same, but they are not at all. Because while a hectare is 10,000 square meters, an acre is 4,046 square meters. 4,046 square meters works up to just a bit above 6 plots of land. So while a hectare is a bit above 15 plots of land, an acre is just a bit above 6 plots of land. After the acre, we have the smaller subdivision of land, which is a plot. Now, a plot could even be more confusing because it's a generic term. So a plot, for example, can be anything you call a plot. But technically, in real estate, in recent times, and when I say recent times, I mean over the last, say, 10, 15 years, a plot technically is about 648 square meters of land. Now, this does not mean that you cannot have a plot as 300 square meters or have a plot as 400 square meters or 500 square meters or more. But because for technical purposes, we're officially referring to what a plot is with virgin land. Lately, it will be 648 square meters. Now, while I say this, it's important to stress that before now, and when I say before now, I mean 20, 30 years ago. So every time government does scheme, because I use government because ultimately all the land belongs to government. So by the time they were giving out land, maybe in the 80s, in the 90s, government could have been breaking the plots down into 1,000 square meters. And at that time, what would qualify for a plot would be the equivalent of 1,000 square meters, sometimes 800 square meters. If you look at most of the plots in Victoria Island, I think they were broken into 1,000, 1,005, 1,002. Most of the plots in Lekki Phase 1 were broken into 800, 900. Most of the plots in Lekki Scheme 2 at inception were broken into 900 and something, 1,100. But lately, if government were doing a scheme now, you find that most of the plots would be about 648 thereabout square meters. Now, when I say this, I must emphasize that I'm referring to virgin plots. By the time you now create some infrastructure there, that size will reduce. And also note that there can be different plot sizes. If you decide to use the term plot generic. So another item is documentation. So you hear people talk about documentation, and while some people know, some people don't know. And documentation, again, is a generic word. It can mean anything from any type of document that you are giving somebody as regards property that they are purchasing. But in more common terms, documentation will comprise deed of assignment, contract of sale, survey. In some cases, if it's a service estate, it will also comprise estate covenant. Estate covenant would be like an agreement or an MOU or guidelines regulating what you can or cannot do within the estate environment. So outside of documentation, I would also speak about what a lot of us are. I'll speak about, I'm seeing someone saying they cannot hear me. I hope. I hope I'm loud enough. Outside of documentation,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Outside of documentation, I will also speak to development levy. Now, most of us are familiar with development levy, but as consultants, the knowledge of that is also more important for a consultant than just a layman. Most people most buyers or prospective buyers or laymen just want to know how much is the property, how much property. It doesn't affect them so much. Whether you are calling this one building cost, you are calling this one development levy. But the issue has come up from time where people have been confused on how much they are really paying. I mean buyers, because they have been billed a certain sum, and maybe you have come back to tell them that they need to pay some development levy. So for development levy, we typically refer to the amount that a developer has termed for the or set aside or excised from the total cost, and tagging it as the cost that is for the infrastructure of the estate. Before the calculation of commission, it didn't used to matter so much because the cost is cost. But because development levy is not really seen by the developer as part of the sale cost of the unit, and most times, not all the time, commission is not really paid on that development levy. It's just a fee that is paid by the buyer towards the infrastructure of the estate. Now, for a consultant, you can pick or choose how you present it to your client. There are clients that just want to know how much is my total cost. They don't care what you call A or what you call B. For those kind of clients, you want to add the development fee plus the land cost or the building cost and just give your client a total figure. For other types of clients, they might want to have a breakdown and understand just to be sure what they have paid for and what they have not paid for. After development levy, before I continue, let me know that we'll be able to ask questions regarding these issues. So if you have any question, you can just note it. Once I'm done in like another 5 minutes, we can now ask questions regarding the things I've discussed. We have another term, location. Location again is a generic term. Location itself can be anything. And when I say generic, I mean the location of something is the location of it. But when we say location in real estate, what are we really referring to? We are referring to proximity of the land or building development to infrastructure. We are referring to proximity of the land or building development to infrastructure. We are referring to the amenities that are available around the infrastructure, amenities such as schools, hospitals, event centers, hotels, and so on and so forth. We are also referring to access. When we are speaking about location, we are referring to how accessible is property. So location will encompass all the things that come to play, right, in determining whether one is interested in buying a property or not. We cannot overemphasize location because ultimately that's the primary anchor that a prospect is looking at in determining whether they want the property or not. Location will also include the future projection of the environment. So there are some areas where you go to where there's really no road there yet, but you can see that 90% of the road that needs to be done is already done, and it's just remaining one street. Other place becomes a part of another arrangement entirely. So location will also include the future prospects, the immediate future prospects of uh, parcel. I'll also speak to another terminology, which is virgin land. For especially a lot of new realtors or new consultants, they find from time to time a mix up between time from time to time a mix up between
It'll be Tuesday when we resume. Tuesday morning.
somebody's mic is on. Can you please mute your mic? So we find a lot of mix up between virgin land and service land. It's important to distinguish between the two appropriately. So if you buy, let's say, a forest, bush, that will be virgin land. Most of the time, it will have to come in full sizes, full plot sizes, maybe 648 square meters or even more. Now, by the time you now provide infrastructure on that land, you clear the land, you build a fence around it, you do some road network, drainage, maybe a playground, maybe not, and so on and so forth. And certain infrastructure are provided inside estate. The virgin land will then become serviced plots or service land. Service land will also mean that you are providing some service in terms of maintenance after the initial infrastructure is provided, which you are charging people a certain fee, often called development fee or development or service charge. Now, it's important to make a decision between development levy and service charge. Development levy is often for the initial infrastructure that is put in place, while service charge is often for the maintenance, continued maintenance of that infrastructure. I would also like to speak to the different house sizes when we talk about building or types, not sizes, sorry, types. So I want to start with defining a flat. Again, the term flat can be used generically. When I say generically, I mean just basic English. Anybody can call their house or apartment a flat. But in terms of in our real estate space and in terms of technicality, what is a flat? To call something a flat suggests that there are multiple houses in a building structure. And a flat will be a single residential unit on a floor. Single residential unit on a floor. That's what we term a flat. Now, luckily, most of you will already be, if not all of us, already familiar with what a flat is. But as soon as we start to go into all the other types of structures, it becomes a bit more complicated for some. So after flat, I'll talk about a terrace building. So what is a terrace building? Now, a terrace building would be a structure that I don't want to use dictionary definition. I want to communicate based on the language that we use every day so that the understanding is easier. A terrace building will be a building that is divided into more than two-story buildings. Building structure that is divided into more than two-story buildings, all connected and sharing walls. So if we to understand the terrace building very well, which oftentimes can be a bit confusing, it's important to understand what a fully detached and a semi-detached building is. Once you understand the fully detached building, a semi-detached building, to know what a terrace is becomes almost 100%. So what is a fully detached building? Fully detached building is a building that is a standalone house, which means it has no adjoining building to the right and it has no adjoining building to the left. Now, what is a semi-detached building? A semi-detached building is, as the word semi always means like half of something. So half of a fully detached building. So a fully detached building that is split into two now become two units two living units, right, divided only by one wall, would be a semi-detached building. So really, we can say semi-detached building is two buildings that are merged together by one wall. Now, a terrace is just a continuation. A terrace is just a continuation of a a terrace is just a continuation of a semi-detached building. So instead of having just two units in your block, if two becomes three, then you have a terrace building. If it becomes four, if it becomes five, and in fact, in normal English terms, a semi-detached building is also a terrace building. The only difference is semi-detached speaks to informing you. Language is majorly for communication. So semi-detached is already informing you that it's a terrace unit, but it's only two. But if you say is a terrace unit and you use it loosely, the person might want to ask how many units are then in one block, because you can have a terrace unit that has 5 buildings in one block. In Europe, they have a lot of terrace buildings, and sometimes they can span up to 20 houses. Sometimes it can be a whole street, and all the units are terraced. Each unit will have its own ground floor and first floor or second floor or more. But there are multiple units in a building sharing walls, having adjoining walls.
Good morning. Good morning. Some people say,
So
okay.
please, can we mute our mic, please? So another type of building we want to talk about would be bungalows. Now, we all know what bungalows is. Bungalow will be a house that is only on the ground floor. It's not connected to anything on the right or the left. It also has no story buildings. It's not a story building. It doesn't have a first floor or a second floor.
No, I don't get you. Hi.
It's just sitting on the floor. That's what a terrace would be. A
I
bungalow,
got
sorry.
you.
That's what a bungalow is. So now the most confusing might be a maisonette. What is a maisonette? A maisonette is, if you remember my definition of what a flat is, so a maisonette is a flat with more than one floor. So imagine you have a building and you have, and within that same entrance, you can still go a flight up or more. That would be a maisonette. So while a flat sits on one floor, a maisonette would have an entrance at a floor level like a flat, but will have another floor within that same flat. Why do people have maisonette, terrace, fully detached? All these are things that have come up over time in a bid to make the best use of land. So the shape of the land will come into consideration. I'm trying to speak to why do developers have to pick between these types of, why don't we just have one type of building as in the old days when everybody just built a bungalow? Because the shape of the land, the size of the land, the number of occupants, the price of the land, all those things come into consideration in determining whether you want to situate on your land a bungalow or a flat or a terrace building or a semi-detached. Consumer preference, which is the buyer's preference, will also come to play. There are certain areas where people prefer to buy certain types of buildings. So for example, if you're developing in Victoria Island, I would think ordinarily that the type of units that will move the most in Victoria Island will be flat. Flat because there's a lot of demand for it. Flat because it's the cheapest type of building that buyers can acquire there. flat because it can be used for shortlets easier than other type of. Sorry about that. Sorry, but I think I went offline for a few seconds. Okay, so I think that's it with flat terrace buildings, semi-detached, fully detached, maisonette, and bungalows. Okay, lastly, I would like to speak to commercial development and residential development. The topic, for those that just came on, the topic here is real estate terminologies. So we are discussing various things to various phrases, words that are used in the industry. We've spoken about hectare, acre, plot, documentation, development levy, location, virgin land, service land, and the various types of buildings, which is flat, terrace, bungalow, maisonette, and so on. So lastly, I would like to speak to commercial development and residential development. What is commercial development? What is residential development? As the name implies, residential development is a development that is majorly for residential purposes, for families to dwell in and live in. That would be residential. Commercial development, on the other hand, will be buildings that are built majorly for business. What you will find is there will be a lot more units there. Like if you are building a shopping mall, that would be a commercial development. If you are building office spaces, that would be commercial development. It's also important to add a third variation of it, which is mixed development. You have some buildings now, especially in more recent times, where you have maybe a supermarket, hotel, but somehow they still try to put in some residential flats in there. So there's people have preferences for residential apartments if they are looking for a place, quiet place for their family to dwell in, while people look for commercial development, majorly to set up their office space, stores, and so on. When you discuss mixed development, it's a bit more complicated because then the developer has to ensure that it's set up in a way that the the commercial apartments or rooms don't end up disturbing the serenity that you're supposed to get in a residential uh, apartment. So I think that's it from me on real estate terminologies. We would like to, I believe, take some questions off the back of what we've said. And if there are other terminologies here that have not also been expressed, these are just a few of the terminologies. If there are other terminologies, we can also discuss and we can also take some questions on that. So thank you. Over to you, Olaimi.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so we had an amazing session on real estate 101 by the MD of Ragnarok Property Development Limited. So if you have any question regarding what the MD has taught on, please, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good morning.
All right, good morning.
Please, I joined late. I would like for him to talk on hectares and acre. I'm not really clear on the terminologies for that.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just use 2 minutes to quickly go over that again. The three items I mentioned in that category is hectare, acre, and plot. Most of these terminologies started from agricultural settings because first man was rural before industrialization. So it's more of like a farming term at the time. Now, a hectare is 10,000 square meters of land. So you discuss 10,000 square meters, you need to first understand what a meter is. So a square meter is 1 meter by 1 meter. And a hectare is 10,000 square meters of land. Inside that 10,000 square meters, you can get a bit above 15 plots of land, 15 plots and change. That's what you can get from inside the hectare. Now, people use the term hectare and acre interchangeably, which is not right because they are two different things, and people have gotten into problems thinking that they are selling hectare, but they are really selling acre. Because an acre of land is 4,046 let's say 4,047 square meters of land. This works up to about 6 plots of land and a little bit of change. When I say change, I mean it's not an accurate thing. So you have a bit more land, but you can take out 6 plots maximum from inside an acre. Now, you cannot express hectare, acre, and have full understanding without defining what a plot is. So a plot over time, the term plot, first know that plot is just an English word meaning a plot of land, right? But in the real estate space, we have pinned a certain dimension to what we call a plot. Over time, that has also changed from time to time. So what we define as a plot now might not be what our children and grandchildren will use as a plot in many years' time. And that's because in the past, a plot at one point could have been 1,000 square meters. So I went to the example of Victoria Island, for example, in the 80s, when they apportioned most of Victoria Island, you will find that the plot there could have been 1,000 square meters, 1,500, 1,800. But as the population continues to increase, because first land comes from government. Government continues to also reduce the size that comes in the plot. And as engineering also gets better, you tend to realize that you don't need that much space for a plot of land. But to answer your question properly, what is a plot of land? As of now, a plot of land is officially about 648 square meters. That's what makes up a plot of land. And when I say plot of land, I'm referring to virgin land. By the time that plot is developed, you might lose some space to infrastructure, you might lose some space to drainage, you might lose some space. This doesn't mean that you can't have your estate where your plot is 300 square meters. This doesn't mean you can't have your estate where your plot is 400 square meters. But in such cases, to give clarity, it would be important to state the number of square meters that makes up the plot. But if you were talking loosely and mentioned the term plot, plot will mean that you are referring to at least 648 square meters. Now, because land is not like bread that you can just slice, there's no way to slice a large parcel of land accurately. You are not going to have that exact same size every time. You are going to have plus or minus, 648 square meters. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it has. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other question regarding real estate 101?
Regarding the terminologies.
Oh. Okay, I don't think we have any question for now, but just in case you have a question, you can write it down or raise up your hand. You can that would call my attention so that I can allow you to speak. So right now, thank you very much, sir, for that session. It's such an
Thank you very much.
insightful one. Thank you, sir. All right, so we'll be going into the second session right now, and this session we'll be looking at something very important in the real estate industry, which is root title and documentation. So this morning I have with me our lawyer Barrister Edidion on this space, and she would be taking us on that session. So please, can you join me welcome Barrister Edidion Umokaso? You're welcome, Barrister.
Good morning, all. Thank you. Let me put on my video. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Please, can we hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Good morning.
Okay, so I'll be speaking with us very briefly on a topic that is of very great importance, and that is root of title and land documentation. As Olayemi has already mentioned, this is a very important topic because a lot of people have fallen prey in the industry, and some people have lost a significant amount of money as a result of inadequate knowledge on root of title. Sorry, let me introduce myself first. My name is Edidion Umokaso. I'm on the team of RPDL's lawyers. Okay, so as I was saying, a lot of people have fallen prey as a result of lack of knowledge on root of title and proper land documentation. And it's also very important that people that are marketing land understand root of title and land documentation so that they too will not be caught up by legal consequences of making some representations to clients, and then those representations turn out to be false in the Okay, so by way of background, I just want to reiterate the fact that under Nigerian law, all land is vested in the state governments. So by the Land Use Acts, all land in a state is vested in the governor of a state, and no interest in land can be transferred from one person to another person without the consent of the governor. So that means if you want to sell land, if you want to do a mortgage transaction, if you want to do a long lease, if you want to even make a charge over a land, the consent of the governor is mandatory. If that consent is not sought for and obtained, that transaction, although it may be valid, but it cannot be enforced. So that is why in every land transaction, it is important that the process is done to the end to ensure that you have obtained governor's consent before the consent of the government. Let me not call it governor's consent so as not to confuse you. The process follow through to the end to ensure that the consent of the government is obtained. If not, anything that is done is just done halfway and there is no conclusion to that transaction. So now let me dive specifically now into the issue of root of title. Currently, the two most popular root of title used in Lagos State are the certificate of occupancy and gazettes. So let me start with certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy, just like I said, is derived from a statutory right of occupancy. Prior to the coming into force of the Land Use Act, the law allowed individuals, villages, communities to own their land. Now, when the Land Use Act came into force, all the government automatically became the owner of all land in the state, irrespective of where the land is, except the lands that were earmarked for the federal government. Every other land became automatically vested in the state government. So now what happens is that if you want land, if for government to allocate land to you, the government will allocate that land to you through a certificate of occupancy. So certificate of occupancy became the foremost statutory right of occupancy. So if somebody wants to buy land and you treat the root of title, you see that there was a certificate of occupancy initially allotted by the given by the Lagos state government to the owner of that property. Right now, certificate of occupancy is like the safest root of title because it is statutory. It is based on the Land Use Act. The next root of title is the gazette. So let me just give you the background of the Gazette first so that you understand it. I'm trying as much as possible not to use legal terminologies, because maybe when you are speaking with subscribers or clients in the future, you have to explain this. You will not be using legal terminologies. So prior to the Land Use Act, like I said, certain communities or villages owned land by themselves. They're already settling in those lands. They exercise possessory rights. Those lands belong to them. For example, like you see all those lands in Ibejuleki, those lands already belong to the community. They are bale, they are kings. They're already assigning those lands and doing their commercial transactions on those lands as they fit. After the coming into force of the Land Use Act, the government took over those lands. Now, the government still recognizes that even though it has taken over these lands, those communities, those villages, they still have preferential rights in respect of those lands because those lands originally belonged to them. So what the government does is that it allows those communities or those villages or families to apply for excision. When they apply for excision, the government will excise that portion of land that had originally belonged to them and give it back to them. So that is the process that is referred to as excision. Excision itself is not a root of title. Excision in progress is not a root of title. It is just a description of the fact that that community or village has applied to the state government to excise their land to them so that they can continue to use the land. When an excision is completed, the government records the excision in what is called a
Please
gazette.
turn off your mic. So turn off your mics.
When the excision is completed, the government publishes the excision in what is called a gazette. It is that gazette that is the proof of excision. It is the gazette that signifies the fact that the government has actually excised that portion of land and given it back to that community or village or family, as the case may be. If the process of excision, can you put up your mic? Whole Life Properties Limited, please. You are interrupting us.
Maybe you should mute everybody.
Okay. So, as I was saying, the process of excision is completed when a gazette has been published in respect of the excision. If the gazette has not yet been published, the excision process is not yet complete because it is the gazette that is the proof of the fact that that land has been excised. The fact that you have applied for excision or that your excision is in progress does not necessarily mean that at the end of the application you will get it. That's where a lot of people get to lose money. So maybe you went to do a search, you met with the community, and the community told you that, oh, this title, then there's excision in process. Now there's a high chance that is a very good title because they've already applied for the excision. But now the risk is that it is possible that it is not the entire expanse of land that the community applied for excision that the government will excise. So let's say, for example, the community had applied for the excision of maybe, let's say, 12,000 hectares of land. Upon the application, the government looks at it that maybe out of the 12,000 hectares of land, they still need like 4,000 hectares of land maybe to build a commercial, maybe like a market or anything for public purpose. So the government now decides that, okay, out of your application for 12,000 hectares, we are going to excise only 9,000 hectares, and only 9,000 hectares will be documented in the Gazette. Whereas somebody who had relied on the fact that there was an excision in process would have gone ahead and already purchased some of the plots or hectares. And by the time the government now assigns, let's say now excises only 9,000, that person may have a plot or an hectare that falls outside the area of what the government has excised to the community. And in that circumstance, it is neither the fault of the community nor the fault of the government. because it is deemed that you should have known that when excision is in process, it is not automatic that once you've applied for an excision, the portion of land you have applied for will be given to you. So in summary, for customary land, that is for land belonging to community or village or a group of individuals like that, the root of title is the gazette and not excision. Excision is not a root of title. And then recently, the Lagos state government has, instead of publishing gazettes at the end of the excision process, has started giving certificate of occupancy at the end of excision. So maybe for people that have been marketing like some recently excised land recently, you may have observed that somebody had told you that I had excision in process, and then the person is now giving you a certificate of occupancy. It does not mean that it is wrong. Recently, instead of doing gazettes, the government is also giving certificate of occupancy. So you may see some excised lands now that have certificate of occupancy. So those are the two main roots of title. Every other documentation that you see in respect of land is not a root of title. It is just a documentation that has to trace the root of title, either to a certificate of occupancy or a gazette. If the certificate of occupancy has not yet been processed and issued, or the gazette has not yet been published, you know that that transaction, the ownership of that property has not yet been completed. It is still inchoate. So there is a risk that it may not be completed. So I'll quickly dive into popular land documentation, which I have termed as instruments of conveyance, because like Mr. B had earlier mentioned, land documentation is the term it's very wide. It means everything from rent agreements, lease transactions, mortgage documents, and all of that. So I'm going to streamline it to just sell. That is why I'm restricting it to instruments of conveyance. That is land documentation that can be used to transfer land from one person to another. So the first one on my list is deed of assignments. I know this is the most popular one, so all of us already have a fair knowledge of it. Now, deed of assignment is the most popular means of conveying land from one person to another. Now, although it is very popular, like I have already mentioned, deed of assignment in itself is not a root of title. And that is because a deed of assignment, anybody can prepare a deed of assignment in respect of any land. What gives a deed of assignment the effect of actually transferring the land is the registration. That is to say, if you carry a deed of assignment, for example, you check the last page, you see that it had been stamped, it had been registered at Alausa, you see that maybe this instrument is registered in number 1, in number this, volume this, at the land registry office, blah, 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 on so and so dates. That is what means that is what shows that the transaction on that deed of assignment is complete. Outside of that, it is just a mere proof of transaction. It does not show that, it is not evidence of the fact that that land belongs to the person who is named in the deed of assignment. I don't know if some people are getting me, but there will be time for question and answer after this. So deed of assignment is a registrable document. For you, when you buy land and you are issued a deed of assignment, you have to register it. You have to perfect it. And the process of perfection is first, you pay your stamp duty on the land, you obtain governor's consent, and then you register it. That is it. Now, before you even start talking about registering it, you know that if there was no C of O or gazette that traces the title of that land in the first place, it is not going to be registered, because like I said, your deed of assignment has to recite the fact that, okay, this land came to you pursuant to maybe a certificate of occupancy that was earlier issued by the state government, or it came to you as a result of a gazette that the government had excised to a particular community. Outside of that, your deed of assignment is inchoate. Now, if you get a deed of assignment, it is signed, you have not yet registered it, you are just holding it, you are hoping to register it in the future. That deed of assignment in itself, at that way, it's just a proof of transaction. By that, I mean, if Mr. A agreed to sell land to Mr. B, and then they have executed a deed of assignment that is not yet registered, it is proof of the fact that, okay, Mr. A has actually sold land to Mr. B. But if there is any dispute in respect of that deed of assignment, Mr. B cannot enforce it and say, by this deed of assignment, you had sold me land. And that is because that deed of assignment has not been perfected at Alausa. So the next document now is land purchase receipts. So, some people will buy land, especially in rural communities, and the only documents that will be given to them is just a receipt. Now, like I mentioned earlier, receipts is just evidence of purchase. It just shows that Mr. B purchased land from Mr. A. If any dispute arises in respect of that purchase, that receipt is not enforceable because it is not registered. For title to be transferred from one person to another in respect of land, there must be a registration that involves obtaining governor's consent. There is also contract of sale. This one is also very popular. So contract of sale is just like the land purchase receipts. It's just evidence of purchase. It is not enforceable. You can sue for maybe recovery of maybe the money that was paid, but you cannot enforce title to that land, to a land that was purchased by way of just a contract of sale. Then the next document is power of attorney. Some people assign their interest in land to other people by way of an irrevocable power of attorney. So let me clarify it first. When I say power of attorney, there are two types. There is revocable power of attorney. If you see any property with a revocable power of attorney, you should run away completely. It means that the person that is holding the power of attorney, that the person that holds that power of attorney only has like limited interest in respect of that property. The owner of the property, that is the person that issued the power of attorney in the first place, still has some reversionary rights. The person can revoke that power of attorney at any time, and that person that is still holding the power of attorney will still be holding it and going about without knowing that the power of attorney has been revoked. Let me give you an illustration. If Mr. A had appointed Mr. B his attorney and given him a revocable power of attorney that you can sell my property at maybe number 1 Awolowo Road. Now, Mr. B is holding that power of attorney. Mr. B has relied on that power of attorney and gone to sell the property at number 1 Awolowo Road. While Mr. B was still discussing with the new buyer for number 1 Awolowo Road, the owner has changed his mind and decided that, let me sell this property by myself, get his own buyer and sells the property. Mr. B that sold the property earlier with the power of attorney will be liable to refund because his power of attorney was a revocable power of attorney. So now, on the other hand, there is an irrevocable power of attorney, where a person is issued with an irrevocable power of attorney to sell a property. It means that the owner has divested himself of any legal rights or interests in respect of that property. The owner cannot come back and tell the person that you cannot sell this property again or return my property to me. So a lot of people use irrevocable power of attorney to assign their interest in land to somebody else. So instead of doing a deed of assignment, they just issue an irrevocable power of attorney and assign and transfer all their interest to the holder of the power of attorney. But just like every other land documentation, since an irrevocable power of attorney totally divests the interest of the owner to another person, the irrevocable power of attorney has to be registered at the land registry. If it is not registered, that irrevocable power of attorney is still an inchoate document. So if somebody is telling you that I'm selling property by reason of an irrevocable power of attorney that was issued to me, you have to look at the power of attorney and confirm that it was registered. If it is not registered, any transaction that arises under that power of attorney will be inchoate because you cannot enforce it. Then there is also deed of legal mortgage. This one might sometimes mortgages end up creating a scenario where property is transferred permanently to another person. So if a person gets obtained, if the person is a party to a mortgage transaction, you obtained a loan and mortgage the property, and then the due date comes and the loan is not paid and the mortgage becomes exercisable, the mortgagee has the power to take over that property. In that circumstance, if that property had a good root of title, like we had already discussed, and the mortgagee now takes over the property in view of the fact that the mortgagor had failed to pay the loan, that mortgagee has now gotten a good title. But the mortgagee has to take further steps and ensure that he has gone to the land registry to ensure that his title is now registered. If that mortgagee now seeks to sell that land is going to be properly sold in view of the fact that there was good title to it in the first place. Then similarly, we also have vesting deed or deed of assent. So this one, vesting deed or deed of assent comes into place where a property or land was inherited by way of a will or an administration of estate, like pursuant to the administration of estate law of Lagos State. So if a person inherited a property under a will or under the operation of the administration of estate law of Lagos State, the property has a good a good title, a good root of title, like we already discussed, that person can go ahead and register it as a vesting deed at the land registry. Just a will, like if a person shows you a will that this is the will that the property was passed on to me, that in itself is not a conclusive title, because
what's it called? I think I deed of assignment. So that was what he used to get his COO then. So in that scenario, what might have happened or what happened? Because you said earlier that the property needs to be gazetted and all that to get a COO. Please, can you shed more light? Or what I'm saying is only applicable to Lagos State alone. So I don't know if you have anything to, yeah.
First of all, I don't understand your question. Are you saying that the property you are referring to has a COO?
Property has just normal registered survey, and the COO was perfected. Yes, it has a registered survey, and the COO was perfected on by just submitting the survey and the deed of assignment. Then, and he got a COO.
And if he has gotten a COO, that covers it. I had mentioned that COO is good title. So if there is a COO in respect of the property, that is good title. Do you understand? So it can either be COO or a gazette. If there is COO, that is good title.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, sorry for taking time. What I'm trying to say is, there was nothing like gazette, just from deed of assignment and registered survey directly to COO. So I want to ask, what happened? Because he got the COO without having gazette or excision or, and he got the COO.
Okay. I think I understand your question.
Yes.
I did not say that for you to process a C of O, you had to get gazette. The process of gazette and the process of C of O are two completely different processes. A person that seeks to get a portion of land allotted to him by the government, a statutory right of occupancy, that person can just apply for C of O and get it. It does not have to be a gazette. The gazette usually comes where it is maybe a community or a village approaches the government and decides that, okay, this is our property that you took from us by reason of the Land Use Act, excise it back to us. That is where excision comes into place. And then when the government now accedes to the request and excises the land back to the village or community, the government will go ahead and gazette that excision. But outside of the gazetting and the excision, a person can apply directly to the government for a C of O, and the C of O will be issued to the person. So in the circumstance, if your family had applied to the government for C of O and the government has issued a C of O, there is nothing wrong with the transaction.
Yeah, exactly what I want to hear. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Is there any other question?
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I have a client whose father willed a property to him, but he's not in the country, and he wants to sell that property, but the title of that property is still in his father's name, but he is not in the country. So how, and he was told initially that he has to be around, but he's asking how can he, like navigate the process by ensuring that the documents are transferred, or they now bear his name without him having to be in the country.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your question. So now the process is if a will, in a will, when a will is being drafted, the will usually appoints people named as executors. So let's say a particular property is willed to a particular person. The will usually mentions who the executor of that will is supposed to be. The executor is the person that has the power to approach the probate registry to enforce the will. That is to, the person will approach the probate registry, pay the necessary fees, and then the person will now get legal title of the property, pending when it is now gone, pending when allows you now approach the land registry to do the vesting deed and all of that. So if there was a third party that was appointed as executor for that will, that third party can approach the probate registry here in Nigeria and enforce the will first. Well, since your client is not in the country, because your client cannot, even if your client is the person that is named as executor, your client cannot enforce the will if he's not in Nigeria. Unfortunately, our laws have not yet evolved to the extent that you can stay from outside the country and execute a will. So the best bet is if the will had mentioned an executor outside of your clients that is in Nigeria. This part is completely within the realm of this thing of wills law. It's not land now. So I'll just summarize it because there are some technicalities to it. The executor of the will take the will to the probate registry first and enforce the will. Now, after the process at the probate registry, the individuals that had benefited in the will one way or the other can now go ahead and now exercise their own individual rights over the properties in the will. The only problem would be if it is your clients that is the only executor in the will. In such circumstance, he has to come back to Nigeria to enforce the will at the probate registry before he can commence registration at Alausa. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it answers, but can I ask for your contacts for so that when I make a call across to him, he's in Canada, you can also be able to really explain this to him, because it's not, I perfectly understand, but explaining it to him, I don't want to miss, you talked about the reprobate registry and the executors and stuff. So I don't know if I'll be able to get your him, you'll be able to also, we can contact you for further explanation.
Okay, I've dropped my phone number on the chat box.
Thank you very much.
Is there any further question?
Yes, I'd like to ask a quick question, Mrs. Young. So I hear this term freehold used loosely now.
Okay.
So every time I hear people discussing and they say that the title is okay, is freehold, especially referring to parcels of land around Ekpe, Lekki, and so on. So can you just shed a bit of light on that? Is freehold a title? If it is, if it's not, what are the implications of
Okay. So freehold is not a title. Freehold was the situation of things prior to the Land Use Act of 1978. Prior to the Land Use Act of 1978, all land was freehold. Individuals, communities, and villages had the power to had possession or ownership rights over their land as freehold. But the 1978 Land Use Act came and put a restriction on freehold of property by vesting all ownership rights over land in the government of the states. So there's no more freehold. So probably what people mistake as freehold is the excision process, because if those communities that the government acquired their land pursuant to the Land Use Act go back to the government and apply for excision and demonstrate that they were the original owners of the land or the original settlers of the land, the governments would give them back their land through gazettes. So it's possible that is all freehold. But outside of that, there is no operation of freehold in Nigerian law right now, because all land belongs to the state. And anybody that is holding land is only holding it for the 99 years period specified in the Act.
So you're saying essentially that the Land Use Act covers the entirety of Lagos State, and it's not that it covers some areas, but some areas are left out and are not covered, like Ekpe and so on.
Yeah, the Land Use Act covers everywhere in Nigeria. The Land Use Act vests every land in Nigeria in the state government, except certain land that have been demarcated for the federal governments. So it's only a sharing between state governments and federal governments. But the land, the general rule is that the land is in the state government, except the land that has been given to federal governments. No individual or community has freehold.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, the funny thing is that you keep seeing freehold as part of land documents to a particular property, on the advert. So most times I really wonder why they should be putting freehold on that property when advertising it, when they know that, freehold, like you said, is not really legal in terms of the 1978 land use law. That's just my.
Some people may not understand. Some of the marketers are not lawyers, so they may not understand the strict legal meaning of freehold. They may just think that it means that the land is free, but that is not the meaning.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, please, is that all the questions?
I think so.
Sorry, I want to ask one more question. So I for instance, we can we confirm if a land has been excised or government has it has gotten excision? Can we confirm a land if it has been excised through a survey, through like a registered survey? You know, on the survey can tell if a particular property is not under government acquisition and under government acquisition. Please, can you shed more light on that? Because with survey, sometimes you can confirm, like the coordinates, take it to Alausa, you can use it to check if a land is actually free from government acquisition. Please kindly shed more light on that, because most people might purchase the land but might not know if it is actually excised or free. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I understand your question. So the most effective way of ascertaining whether there is an encumbrance on the land or if the land is free according to your usage is by doing a search at Alausa. Survey in itself cannot conclusively give you information as to whether of the ownership of a property or if there is any encumbrance on it. The gazettes, since your question is specifically in respect of gazettes are usually published by the Lagos state government. So you can easily get the gazettes and confirm. The person that is representing to you that my property is gazetted, it is the responsibility of that person to give you the gazettes. Now, even if the person may not have the gazette, if the person gives you the title number and you conduct a search at Alausa, you are going to find the details of the excision and the gazettes in the file. If it is not there, then the transaction, the ownership of the property is still questionable. I don't know if that answers your question. And just to add to it, the purpose of survey is just to confirm that it is it's just to confirm the boundary and location of the property. It's just to show that, okay, the particular property in respect of which you seek to purchase or in which you are doing a search on is the same property that the third party is interfacing with you on. So it will not be a case that you are trying to buy a property in Ikoyi and they are selling you a property in Victoria Island. That is the only purpose of survey. Survey is not a document that you can use to do a search. It's not a document that you can use and do a conclusive search to confirm whether the title to a property is good or not.
Yeah,
So in
thank
that
you very much.
case, what is the conclusive title or acceptable title on a property that shows that property is free from government acquisition and other encumbrance? Is there any other title apart from this survey? Because my client bought a piece of property, and that was what was given to my client. But like you said, now it's not a conclusive or verifiable document, that shows that that person actually has the land. So which other document should we ask for beyond this? Thank you.
Okay, so
yeah, sorry, let me add to that question. Sorry. Please, I was made to understand that a C of O can only be issued once on a certain property. Like a C of O can only be issued just once on a particular property, and it can only be valid for 99 years or thereabout. Sorry, what happened after the 99 years? Because like now, maybe there's a transfer of ownership from one person now to another, maybe like after 60 years or 70 years or thereabout. So what happened after the 99 years?
Okay. All right, so I'll take the two questions together. So the first question is that since I mentioned that survey is not conclusive to show title, that what document is, Okay, we had discussed this in detail earlier, but I'll just run it through for you. The deed of assignments. Okay, please, the person that asked that question, was there any deed of assignments executed for your clients?
A deed of assignment was given.
Okay. And the survey was attached to the deed of assignments.
Yes.
Okay, so your client should have conducted a search first before carrying out the sale. But then in any event, your client can still use the information in the deed of assignment to go to Alausa for registration.
Registration.
Yes, for
registration of the land.
The registration of the land at Alausa, so that your client's name would be on the record of the government as the owner of the land.
Okay.
If your client had not done a search prior to purchasing, the risk is that when your client goes to do the registration now, your client will realize that the person that sold the land to him was not even the owner of the land in the first place. And in the circumstance, they cannot register to him because it is only the registered owner of land that can assign land. So we all hope that the person that sold the land to your client was actually the owner. In that way, your client can go ahead and do registration in his own name to avoid any eventualities in the future.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Incidentally, my client is not in the country, but hopes to be very soon. And then we will, I think, go further on that. But from every indication, the developer is credible. And but like you said, we will still do further search on it. Thank you very much.
From the registration process, unlike a will, you can commence perfection at Alausa without being physically present.
Okay.
Okay. So the question on C of O. So yes, the law is that when any interest in land that is assigned to a person through C of O lapses after 99 years. No, since the 1978 Act till now, it's not up to 99 years yet. The law has not yet made provision as to what is going to happen after that 99 years. We are still waiting for the National Assembly to speak in respect of that. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Please, is there any other question?
Good morning. Good morning. I think the question that woman asked about register survey was issued. I think the thing is that just ask, okay, where is the location of the property? If it is at Ekpe now, government is not even thinking about Ekpe now. No C4 has been published to Ekpe. All these lands that they are extremely expensive in Ekpe is not even C4. So I think it depends on the location of that property. Because if it's in Ekpe and is registered survey, that's what, at least they've issued a coordinator. Okay, this is the boundary of your land. This is the measurement of your land. That's what registered survey is. So I think you should know the location of that property first. If Ekpe is still free, that's why you see some of these developers, they write freehold. Freehold is just a land that is free from every government occupancy or any government acquisition. Are you listening to me?
Okay.
But the professional has shared more insight on what we need to know. I believe what Mrs. Edith Young has said covers it. Okay? If someone is put freehold, she has answered it sufficiently. And this land in question that I'm talking about that my client bought is not in Ekpe, it's in Ibejoleki. Thank you.
So I think that answers the question. The survey, like you've mentioned, you rightly said it while you were speaking. Survey just determines, survey is not an instrument of conveying title from one person to the other. Survey is not also a document that is used for this thing to determine if a person has good title. Survey is just showing you that this is the boundary of the property. The survey does not mean that, okay, since this is the boundary of the property now belongs to you. So the fact that somebody has given another person a survey does not necessarily mean an assignment. There has to be other documentation and a good root of title before that conveyance is completed. And then it is not correct that the government is not doing anything about Ekpe. There are some areas in Ekpe that have been excised. So please, is there any other question? All right, I think that will be all from my end. Thank you very much for having me. This was really an interesting session.
All right. Thank you, Barrister.
Thank you so much for this exciting section.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Barrister.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Barrister Gideon, for that insightful session. So right now we'll go into the next session where we'll be discussing closing like a pro. Right? I believe a lot of realtors have issues with closing deals as often as they should. So right now we'll be going into that session, and permit me to welcome once again my MD, the MD of Ragnarok Property Development Limited, Barrister Adebi, to take us on this session. Go into another session. I'm sorry about that. That was an error from my end. So we'll go into the session that will be discussing on content that sells. All right. So I would like to welcome Moyosori Bamidele, the creative executive of Ragnarok Property Development Limited. Moyo.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Are you trying to join from already?
Hello? Hello, can everyone hear me?
Not audible.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, okay. So, good morning, everyone. So today we'll be talking about content that's for selling, effective content and strategy for selling real estate. That's a topic. Though the last time we did this, we talked about some things. We stated things that such as high quality images, videos, virtual tour, location area highlights, and the likes. So, but today, last time I had to like define each and every one of them. We'll be going deeply into the topics one after the other, so as to understand why you really need to get a lot of content to sell real estate. Okay, so the first one is high quality images and video. So basically for real estate, you need high quality images and video when marketing real estate, because one, sometimes your clients might not be around and you have to send videos and content to the client. You have to make the images the high quality. For video, I most times recommend 4K video. Why? Because it's clear enough for someone to actually see the color, the structure of the building, landed property, and so on and so forth. So you have to actually get the actual color correction, clear picture from your photographer or videographer. So most people I know, they do employ videographers and photographers to take pictures, personal one, apart from the ones they get from the company, to go to the site, take their own shot, different angle, and for marketing purpose, and to send to their clients, because that is very important. It's not just for your client, you can also have it for reference and for personal use. So it's really very, very important for to have high quality images and videos. Then we move to virtual tour and videos. I know that basically before you market a property, you have to go to the property to actually see it. So most times I advise people, when you get to even your first visit, make sure you have some content you can get. Sometimes you can even do a video of yourself talking about the property. You can do your own proper findings, research about the property, where is it located, even a Google map about the property. You could also use the Google Earth app. You can download it on Play Store or Apple Play. It will show you like a 3D design of where the location is, and you can from there go on Google and search about the location, things around that, which you can also use to market. So why virtual tour is very important is because whoever you're marketing to would be able to have a feeling of the structure of the building, the architectural work, and how it is, where it's located, and feel that, oh, okay, this person actually knows what you are selling. It's just like someone selling a product that you don't know about. So you have to be there and prove that, yes, I've been at this project, at this building, or at this property, and I know what I'm saying. I am there, and this is a video of me showing you around the property. So that is very, very important when marketing product. Location area highlights. So whenever you're doing your research about a property, always check out the environment of that property. Schools, where schools are located, parks, closest mall, ShopRites, event centers, and the likes, because they are very important for a client to actually know that, okay, this place I'm getting a property in the next 5 years, it's very accessible to the road. It's just 2 minutes drive to, places like parks, schools. I don't have to go through issues and, traffic and the like. So all those things are very, very, very important to always put down when marketing, because sometimes when you're marketing and you don't have all this information and the clients call you and like, oh, what's the closest park to the property you're selling to me? You don't know it. So those things are really, very important. And even if you can go there in person to actually take pictures and videos to also use to market your property, it is very advisable to do that. So that takes us to client testimonies. So client's testimony can be from the company and it can be from your personal self. So, and it's really why I really love this part of marketing, because that's one of the ways people actually sell in different business sectors, through testimonies of different clients, referrals. So when you sell your proper, you can get clients' testimonies from the real estate company you're dealing with and use it for your marketing. That, oh, someone has got a property there and this is the person's experience, this is what the person has to say about it. And even you, whoever you sold to, you can also use that, this is what the person said about what or I had to get for the person, and so on. It will also help make your marketing easier and faster. So I realized that most people that invest into property are from referrals. You get more clients from referrals, and where this is where client testimonies work from. So I really advise, you could even print it out, type it, put it on your page, your WhatsApp status, your Instagram, and so on. so that people see it regularly, like, okay, this is what I do and this is what people are saying about my product, which is very, very important. So social media promotion, yes. So you can also get clients and also market your product on social media, where most of the things I listed, you can also put that on your social media page. You could even promote it. And if you have a lot of followers and fans, you could even I normally use a statement, food soldiers. You can make them your food soldiers, whereby you send it to them individually and they go out to market for you and you get your own deal on it. You could cut a deal with them whatsoever. But social media is really a very good place to actually promote your property advertising. The platform I most times recommend to people and I've actually seen is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. There are other social media platform for marketing real estate. Yeah. So that would bring me to the end of my training on content for selling. So, any question? Please, let's mute up. Please, any question? Okay, so I guess no question then. So I hand over to Mr. Olayemi. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, I'm here.
Okay, I discovered that this the Facebook. There's one time I run an ad. I was getting a lot of fake calls. Even some tried to toast me, all those stuffs. And to convert is so, I checked the total money I spent on Facebook, almost 400, and the result is not encouraging.
Sorry, I didn't get that question. It was kind of breaking. Can you recap, please?
Okay, I said that. Sorry, I'm trying to log off. Okay.
Hello?
But what she said was that she spent a lot of money on Facebook adverts and they didn't yield anything for her. And some people were even trying to toast her.
Oh, okay, so
just speaking generally to how proliferated Facebook is for ads.
Okay, so for me, what I suggest is, I guess, is that targeting. She probably did not target the right audience for the product. That's what actually happened. She can reach out to Yemi Omo on that, on how to target the actual audience you want to sell your product to. So I feel that's where the error came in. So and I think I've answered that question. Any other question, please? Okay. Yes, no
Hello?
question. Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so sorry. I'm
problem.
I'm trying to switch off my iPhone and use this. So my question is that I've done a lot of Facebook adverts and it is not really converting. Some respond, even when I did lead, some of them will start calling, try to even market another sales to me, and some will even be toasting. So what I spent on, I checked the total almost 400, but if I check the sales I've made through Facebook, it's just 2 or 3.
Okay, so I said something earlier that Well, it seems
Okay.
it's targeting the audience that you had issues with. So probably you didn't target the actual audience for the product. That's why it's just probably the set of people you targeted was quite wrong. So that's why. But you could reach out to a professional social media person that could actually help you target the right audience for your product and sell better. So do I don't also just recommend this social media. Sometimes I will also recommend you could also go out and go to like busy places where you know you could actually sell products, walk up to people and try to market to them. That's also help. And
Traditional.
yes, traditional means of marketing.
Okay.
I also recommend that. So, and if you have more questions on how to target, you can also reach out to Mr. Olayemi. So
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hand over to Mr. Olayemi.
My own question is, Olayemi, is he in the group now, in the Zoom meeting, or is he also in the group chat? How do we reach him? Or can he send his number so I can talk to him on WhatsApp? I need professional on this Facebook.
Okay, I'll share my contact.
Okay.
All right.
Please.
Okay, thank you, Moyo, for that session on content that sells. All right. So we're going into the next section now, where we'll be discussing how to close like a pro. All right. And just prepare your questions so that immediately after each of these sessions, you can ask your questions and it will be attended to. So please join me welcome my MD as it takes us on how to close like a pro. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Olayemi. Am I on? Okay, thank you, Olayemi. So before I go into how to close like a pro, I'd just like to speak to say something on what the last speaker said. The lady that asked about Facebook, please, I'd like to add two things. Facebook is proliferated. Facebook has all sorts of people on it. They spoke about targeting, yes, it's good, but expect that even with the most, the sharpest type of targeting, you are still going to find a lot of what you don't want using Facebook. I mean, and this doesn't mean it's good or bad. This just means that's what you get on with Facebook. And the second thing I want to say about that is expectation. It's important that you manage your expectation. You're going to a place where 99.9% of people are not going to want your product. It's just the 0.001% that you are looking for. So if you limit your expectation, you manage it properly, and you understand that you are going to sieve through a lot of debt before you get to the actual buyers, especially if you are working with Facebook. Unlike referrals, if somebody were referring you to someone that wants to buy property, it's possible that 1 out of every 2 people they refer you to might even buy. But you're not going to find that type of thing with Facebook. So it's just something that comes with that system. So that's that. Then we'll go to the next topic. The idea is to finish this session by 12. We're supposed to run from 9 to 12. So even if we go beyond 12, we'll try and wrap up everything we're doing within the next 10 minutes. So I'll speak quickly on closing like a pro. And what we mean here is at the time when you're talking to a prospect and you're trying to close, what are the things that are most important at that time? First, you need to understand that real estate is a big decision. Real estate purchase is a big decision. Acquisition is a big decision for any buyer. The saying goes that after marriage, the second biggest decision you make in your life is property. I think in some cases, it might even come before marriage, depending on who is buying. So, but know that this is a big decision for people. So it won't really be as easy for them to commit to it. But the good news is there are things that can make it easier. If the seller, the consultant, the realtor also has a lot of knowledge about the sale process. One, information. Information is very key. People only concede their money to you most of the time if they feel you have more knowledge of the product and the market than them. So if you are waiting in the corner, constantly asking a buyer, so when
Network, we can't hear.
Is she still coming back? Or because we are waiting.
I can't hear. I hope it's not my network. Hello?
Yeah, just
I can't hear
hold
anything
on.
too. I think it's a general thing, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry about that. Just hold on. I'm trying to fix that.
Okay.
sorry about that again. Is it better now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so sorry about that. So I was saying that real estate is a big decision for most and is more like the second biggest decision after a wedding or marriage. So it's not going to be easy for people to part with 100 million, 50 million, 200, 500 million without a sort of conviction that the person that is speaking to them is more knowledgeable than them. This means ultimately we need to invest time in research and being knowledgeable about the product we are trying to sell. We need to be able to not only answer the questions that the buyer might ask, but we should be able to educate them on why they should buy, what the price is likely to be later, what the price is now, and what the price was before. We need to be able to make a distinction very quickly in the first 60 seconds of conversation with a prospect on why they might want to buy. There are two major types of buyers. There are people that buy for investment, and there are people that buy because they want to live in, I'll call consumers. And the marketing strategy for the two are different. So if someone wants to live in an estate, He wants to know about the facilities that are provided in the estate. He wants to know about the size of rooms. He wants to know about the infrastructure that is in the estate. But if somebody is buying a property for investment, what he really cares about is his greed. And when I say that, I mean it in a good way. He cares about how much the property was before, how much it is now, how much is likely to be in the future, and what is the price of other properties around the area in comparison to this one, and what does this offer over that. Now, once you know that these are the two major categories, it's important at the beginning of a conversation with prospects to try and decipher whether you are buying, whether the person is interested to live in with his family or is interested for investment. And then you can now push in the direction of the actual purpose. There are other tips in this regard, but I'll go back to my first point, which is research. A lot of us don't do enough research about the property, similar properties to properties, price range. You know, human beings, we're all lazy to a certain extent. So we want the trade to be as seamless as possible. We want the buyer to just visit the site and just write a check. But from experience, and other realtors that are successful in sales can attest to the fact that it's a long process. Sometimes you need to talk. Sometimes you need to become friends with the person. Sometimes you need to convince the person. They need to see. Sometimes the price needs to increase on them for them to know that, oh, they've missed an opportunity. Okay, let me quickly do it now before the price moves again. So this involves a lot of research. We need to familiarize with the terminologies. We need to be able to convince the client on. Sometimes, let me put it like this. Sometimes people start the conversation with you and say they want a flat. But when you are done speaking to them, they are ready to buy your terrace. Why? Because they are also making their initial decisions off the back of what they think is best. Once you are able to shift that and explain to them why what they think is best might not even be the best case scenario, they are then ready to lean on your expertise. So to be able to do that confidently, you need to be knowledgeable about the industry. So confidence is key, knowledge is key, research is key. It's also important to be able to dissect very quickly whether the person is an investor in the market or is a consumer in the market. Lastly on this, I would speak to the trigger. You know, there's what you call the push factor. So imagine you have been speaking to somebody and every serious realtor has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that they are talking to. But the issue is they are not paying. So what will make them pay? I mean, if you repeat the same thing you said yesterday, it's not likely that they're going to pay now. So you have two scenarios. One, you can either depend solely on the buyer, which means they are not going to pay because of what you are saying to them. They are going to pay because they are ready to pay on the day. Either because they heard that their friend too has a property now, which is not your doing so much. Now, you have no control over that, so it's not a good thing to hope on because it's a lengthy process. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know if in the end, that person is going to see a car and is going to buy a car with that money and not buy your property anymore. So what are the push factors that you can use? What are the things you can say in terms of focus to try and ensure that you consummate the deal on time? In your process of having a conversation with a buyer, you want to also rise up to the standard and level of the buyer and ask them direct questions. Most times, realtors are, I don't want to say afraid, but maybe not confident enough to ask some questions because you don't want to lose the sale. But the truth is, if you remember that you don't have the sale now anyway, so there's really nothing you are losing. It's important to be able to ask the question, which is, for example, how much do you have now? you don't have to be afraid in asking a prospect how much they have now. You have to be able to ask the question, how much do you have to deposit now? A lot of times you can hide under the guise that I need to know so that I can structure something for you with the company. So they will often tell you, okay, maybe all I have now is just about 5 million. Okay, how long can you pay for? It's better to, instead of talking about whether you want to buy or whether you want to buy, it's better to talk about the actual transaction, which is how much do you have now? I can spread your payment over 6 to 9 months or 12 months. Which one is best for you? Let me know so that I can present it appropriately. I'll send the application form to your email now. Just fill it, send it back to me. Now, why do you need to do all these things? Because it's not a one button that will activate the sale. There are some things that the person will need to do. But if you can get them to do some of those things, e.g., statistics show that most of the time, when somebody fills an application form, they end up buying the property. Not all of the time, but most of the time. And that's because psychologically, human beings, once we start to invest time or money in a direction, we are likely going to continue or try to complete that direction. So it's important to, even for someone that has not made up his mind, if you can push him to fill an application form ahead of time, it can soften the sale. Now, to just speak to what I'm saying, imagine if there was no initial deposit and if property purchase were just all or nothing, where you have to pay the full amount. Imagine how difficult it would be. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if property is 70 million and initial deposit is 7 million and your client has 80 million in his account or 50 million in his account, whatever figure you want to use, it's easier to get him to pay the first 7 million than to get him to pay the 70 million. Now, once he pays the first 7 million, he starts to get comfortable with you. After all, the company did not run away with the 7 million and you are still picking his calls or her calls. So it's easier to now get that person to keep paying. Now, sometimes people focus a lot on the entire sum, which is harder. It's easier to focus on the deposit sum. After all, once the deposit sum is paid, the remainder then becomes the headache of the buyer and not really the headache of the realtor. You know, that's just the reality of the psychology there. But in closing, I would say that we should try to stick to the things that directly have to do with the sale rather than having discussions that are not really going to address the sale directly. For example, you would find some people make the transactions longer for themselves. E.g., you are talking to a client. You had already started the discussion about money. Then you go back to other secondary discussions that are not really about money. You start talking about location. You start talking about size of room. Those are the things that can delay your transaction, especially if you have not yet collected your initial deposit. It's the client or prospect that can bring up those issues. Your focus should majorly be on how much can you deposit now? How much do you have now? I'll send you the application form. You don't even need to view the property. If you view it and you don't like it, you know, they can always refund your money, you know, but you don't want to wait. And most importantly, you must always put some urgency into it. So there's a term in law that if you have not specified the time, you have really said nothing. What do I mean by this? If you tell somebody, I will give you 10 naira, but you have not said when, then you have really said nothing because that can continue for eternity. That promise can continue for eternity. So with real estate closing, you have to put some urgency as to why the person should pay now. What is a good way to create urgency? Price increase. You are talking to a client, instead of leaving it endless, because he can buy property today, he can buy property next year, he can buy the following year. There's nothing making him buy now. You have to create the impression that he needs to buy now. And to create that impression, you need something that is a direct push. E.g., the company reviews price every quarter. A quarter is ending this September, right? So I'm almost sure that by the first week in October, their price is going to go up again. Whatever you have, I would suggest you just deposit it now so that we can key in on this price. Now you have created some urgency for that person. Now that's an example of how to create an urgency. There are also other ways. You know, some people will tell you they have 20 units, 18 is sold out, you have just 2 left, you know, so that the person feels like if I don't buy now, I might lose out on this development altogether. And why is this important? It's important because the amount of money you are telling the person to commit is big. And the thing you are telling the person to do is not something that he has to do now. So he can continue wasting your time and keep having discussions with you. It's not like he doesn't want to buy property, but why should he commit his money now as against all the other options he has, whether he's spending his money on school fees, whether he's spending his money buying a car, whether he's spending his money going on a holiday? Why should he pay for the property now? He understands why he should pay for it, but why should he pay for it now? I mean, that's sort of the work of the realtor to try and put the urgency there on why such a person should pay now. There's still other tips, but for today, I think we can stop on this note. I might take a few questions, right, on this. But before I do that, I would like to apologize once again for the technical hitches. I think this is the second of this kind of training that we're having. We will have it monthly, and hopefully by next time, we will be more on point with the technicalities of Zoom and Google Meet and so on. So I'll take your questions now. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for this section, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very enlightening section. In a situation whereby a client promised to make initial deposit, as you rightly said,
Yes.
and then you keep on waiting. You didn't hear, you even send reminder, and the client, you will see that the client read the message, but no response. What will I do?
So the truth is, you know that you can see your side. You can't see the other side. Some people are talking to you. They don't have money for the property. Some people are talking to you. They are also expecting money. Some people are talking to you. They are hoping that they will get a contract. They may or may not get it. So if anybody tells you that you will not have that, do I call it, failed expectation is part of the business. You have to work with it. The only buffer you have against it is to increase those number of people. E.g., you are talking to one person, and that person is saying you will make a deposit, You have been waiting. You are waiting for his deposit. You have been on it for 3 months now. I am talking to 5 people, right? I am waiting. I know that the 5 people I'm talking to are not all going to pay me. I know that. Even if all of them are saying they are going to pay, they are not going to pay. Some people will have problems. Some people will not get the money they are expecting. So the only way to create a buffer against that is to increase the number of people you are talking to, because they also can't see themselves. So if you are talking to 5 people and you know in your head that you expect that 2 or 3 of them will deposit before the end of this month, then you are in a good position. You are simply just increasing the odds in your favor. But that they will not disappoint you, you know, is a lie, because they will. Because you can't see his account. You can't see every other thing going on in his life. You can't see whether he's thinking whether he should use this money to move to Canada or he should use it to buy property. That decision the only person that can give us information about that will be the client's husband or the client's wife. That's the person that might be close enough to know why is he really waiting. You know, but you can push the button a bit by asking direct questions. How much do you have now? Sometimes you ask a client, how much do you have now? They will tell you, the money has not even entered yet, but I'm hoping that by October, you too, you reduce your expectation. You know that this person you are talking to does not even have the money yet. Right. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other question? Okay, so
Thank you very much for the insightful, very enlightening, and I've picked something that I'm going to use to push my sales.
to tackle somebody.
Yes, honestly, I'm going to use it, and I believe that it will work. Please, when is the next meeting, next Zoom lecture?
Yeah, it's going to be. I think Olaimi will share a brief on that, but this will happen once every month. At the latest, once every month. So we would inform on the groups.
Not too far from
Where
us.
on I expect that you're on one of our groups, right? On one of the WhatsApp groups. So we'll put the flyer on all the groups a week before the meeting, before the training, and then we'll inform. We'll also pick another topic that we feel might require discussion in the industry. But even outside the topics that we're discussing, I believe we're all in the same industry here, so we can always share ideas. But it's likely to be 3 or 4 weeks' time at the most.
Hello. Thank you very much for the insight.
Thank you.
I'm even applying it now to a client who told me something about I'm waiting for a contract to click. It's now 2 months or so. If I look at the chart, it's more than 2 months. I'm now asking him after the contract, how far has it worked or not?
I mean, the reason why we stall in asking this is because we feel sometimes that if we are too aggressive,
First of all, August, it's 1 month and 7 days now.
The reason why the reason why we stall is because sometimes we feel that if we are too aggressive, it might destroy the whole transaction. So we are always a bit too careful in asking.
And he's even responding. Now I asked after the contract, he responded. Or that we call in the evening. That's a good move. Normally, I keep on asking how business, without asking, referring back to what he was expecting. Okay, that's good. So I wish another topic, aside giving 101 briefly on Facebook, because that's personal between me and you also, because of the want of time here. What of other ones that are more? I didn't hear us throw light on the best one. You said LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I believe talking about other ones, maybe throwing more light on one in any topic we achieve something, we apply. If there's any way we are having hurdles, we talk about it here. In every Zoom meeting we have. The year is coming to an end, and probably people will still come back, all things being equal. If government is fair to people, they will be more secure to come back home. Maybe possible they will like to see those things we are talking to them about, or they will buy before they come. So throwing more light on people so that, because the way one of us was saying here, Facebook was frustrating him. Had it been, she had so many other options, so you'll be absorbing the shock of when people are toasting you, talking a different from what you are targeting. You'll be absorbing shock from another end. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
For some of us, like me now, why I joined the team, because I need to know more about content and the ads and how to make this in real for me.
Okay, so you can contact Olaimi. He will share his number again. You are going to Olaimi. He can take you on 1 or 2 things personally regarding content creation. We can help you with that in the office, right?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, go on. Go on. Sorry.
Okay, let me check. I'm seeing chats. I've not seen his number.
He'll share.
Okay. But if this Zoom goes off now, the number, I don't know. Can we come back to this meeting again?
Okay, let me try and hold on. He'll share now.
All right. I will share my contacts with you now in the comment section. So my number is in the comment section. You can send me a message on WhatsApp so that.
Thank you. I've seen it.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just say something before we close? Can I just say something? I think is it's important while you are trying to do this to know that the business you're trying to do, is it involves a wide span of people that you have to reach.
Very wide.
You know that when I say this, let me try and explain properly. This way of using digital marketing to market real estate is something that came after real estate itself. Before, there was none of this. So there is gap between how many people your ad will reach.
Traditional and digital.
Sorry?
Between traditional and digital.
Yes, between conventional and digital. So the number of, so anytime you set out to use digital marketing or real estate marketing, you have to understand what you are getting into. There is no platform where you would drop content and everybody there is interested in your property. There is no platform that 50% of people there are interested in, except somebody has used conventional means to first assemble a group of real estate buyers. But the idea that one can sit in front of their computer and just post content and then hope that most of the people viewing the content will be interested in property is first a lie. This does not mean, however, that if you post and 1,000 people see your post, 5 of them might ask you some questions about it. 2 of them might go for inspection, or 1 person might go for inspection, or none of them might go for inspection. It's the reality of it. Why? Because what you are selling is also above a certain threshold. So it will only appeal to people that have close to the money, have the money, close to the money, or think they can get the money, to eliminate all the other people, which is the 99% of people that cannot afford it. It would be a different ball game if you were advertising makeup on using digital marketing. Most of the women that will see it would probably be able to afford it. So it's a matter of choice for them. But once you're talking about something that's going to cost millions, that they don't even understand how to go about title issues, they don't know what to check or what not to check. Even people that have the money, that have heard stories about somebody buying land and losing their money, they don't want to put their hand. So even for people that have the money, you still have to be able to educate them and tell them this is how to know good title. I can check for you, or you can use your own lawyer. You have to almost get them to a place of comfort. Now, I see somebody saying something, especially in this harsh economic situation. Let me say something about that, right? You know, the mindset is very important. Me, I don't personally like having conversations around economic situation, because in the economic situation, every money that you are losing is going to another human being. It's not as if it's entering the ground. Somebody is
No, I was
taking.
only assenting to what you were saying, that before people can even release monies to you, especially in millions, you know, it takes time. And I said, especially in this kind of situation where seemingly is harsh. So
no, let's talk about that. It's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. I understand what you're saying. I'm not faulting you, but I just want to shed some light on that, because there could be some misunderstanding in that regard. What I'm saying is, when the cost of transport goes up, right? Transporters complain. The consumers complain. But that money goes to the transporters. They charge more, right? So they have more. They will tell you that they are also buying additional petrol, or petrol is expensive. They also give that money to petrol sellers. That money also goes to people that are selling petrol. That money is never really lost. It's just that it ends up more with some people than others. So what I'm saying is, in the times when, for example, we had a Westbury estate landed property, we sold more during COVID than after COVID or before COVID. No, it doesn't make sense. And now too, economic situation, you might say, is tough, but this is also the time that people in Canada, in Nigerians in Canada, in UK, in the US, are able to afford the properties that they could not afford before, because their dollar is changing for higher against the naira. So we're not going to have everything, so we can either focus on the things we have and use it and focus. It just means that the subset of people that were buying before might change a bit to the subset of people buying now. Now you are going to find that most of the people buying now, for many real estate companies, I would guess will be maybe 60-70% will be diaspora market. And that speaks to your point. But remember, you are not trying to sell, you are not personally trying to sell 100 houses, right? Your own market is there in an environment where people are not really knowledgeable enough. So if you go and check, the realtors that sell, in my own experience, is the same realtors that sell every time. So you meet somebody that says he has been trying for 2 years or for 1 year, he has not made any sale. But you see another realtor that sells every 2 months or every month, consistently like that. Why? And it's the same economic situation. It's the same country. It's the same product. But if you go and check the ones that make the sales, you find out that they put in more time, more effort. They try to create some relationship. They create a seemingly, interesting relationship with the company. They also try to create a relationship with the buyer, because the buyer has to trust you. For as long as you're a stranger to him, you will do all the work, and somebody that he knows, his cousin, you tell him that, and I know one other company that is selling. Then the money that he's supposed to give you, he will now go and give that cousin, and he'll stop picking your call. Not because he doesn't want to buy from you, but because he trusts that cousin.
So we are seeing this.
Sorry? So because he trusts that cousin. So what you have to do is, the people you are speaking to, that you are waiting for them to fill your application form, you are waiting for them to pay deposit. Instead of just waiting during that waiting period, you can use that waiting period to create a relationship with them. A message that goes out to them once in a while. Happy New Month. How are you? How is the family and the children? Are you back in Nigeria now? Have you bought your ticket? How is work? The more you can find out about their lives, the better. The more you can speak on it, the better. Because over time, they then tend to see in their head that they see you as their friend or their colleague or someone that is advising them. And once you get to the point where they start to ask you, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? We have people that we've sold to, that they call me to help them check another property that they want to buy from another company. And I don't complain. I do it because I understand that it's important for them to have that trust. So every time we have a new product, it's easier to get those kind of people to buy. So I think that kind of like exhausts most of it. Or any other questions before we close for today?
Very, very true, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Loretta, right? Loretta, yeah. And thanks for your
Yes.
participation. I see that you've been very active also. Thank you very much, Loretta.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are grateful, sir.
Thank
We
you,
are
also listening.
everyone,
I'm also
for
here.
taking the
listening
time.
to you.
Sorry about the glitches. I will do better with it next time. I'll hand over to Olayemi now to close for the day. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessed.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so finally, I am sure we are aware of the independent sales promo that we are currently offering at the moment, a 1 million naira discount on any of your prospects who would want to buy Westbury Homes at 600 units, 600 square meters at the Westbury Homes. Will be having a 1 million naira discount. That is, instead of paying 35 million naira, the person will be paying 34 million naira. And then the person can also pay for as up to 6 months. That is, if the person wouldn't be paying outrightly. So we also have same discount for the Alva team. That's our 2-bed and maid room, 3-bed and maid room, and then the 4-bedroom terrace. So I would share the details with us now, so that on the group chat, so that we can close that deal. And today is 28th, so the offer begins tomorrow and runs through till the 5th of October 2023. So it is the best time to make sales to all of the clients that have always requested for discount over time. So I'll share the flyers on the group chat and other details on the group chat so that we can all follow up on it. All right, thank you so very much for joining us today, and thank you for